Hello, long time no see. So this is all just kind of gonna be a one take kind of video. I haven't been on here as far as like uploading in so long, and I'm sure you can see things are a little different. So I'm gonna see where this goes. A lot of you guys who are on here probably knows me for singing gospel Christian music. Not that I won't ever again, but at this time, that's probably not what kind of content I'm going to be posting. And what kind of content I'm going to be posting is still kind of up in the air, but it's been so long. YouTube has always been a passion of mine. I kind of just wanted to get on here and just talk. A lot has happened. I think it's been like 8 years since my last video on here. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick rundown. Most of you who follow me probably knows me in real life, but so if you remember my Why No Has Boyfriend video, that has changed. I did has boyfriend and I married him. I married my husband James in 2015. It was kind of quick. I mean, it happened very quick. I really truly would not have had it any other way, honestly, for me. We met, we probably started talking that May, and just as friends, just kind of Snapchatting each other. That's kind of our dating app, is Snapchat, if you could say that. And then we started really talking probably in July of that year, and then started dating in August. Was engaged super quick, and we were married by December. So as you can imagine, things went really quick. Life has been it has just went by so quick since then. And I apologize. I'm not used to this anymore. So, yeah. Then I got pregnant with my first child, Harper, in 2016, very soon. And then we had another child in 2018, Everly. They are 4 and 5 now, in case you wasn't wanting to do the math. And, I mean, they are just wonderful. I've got 2 beautiful girls. Shortly after that, however, things kind of got really hard. One from postpartum depression, which I kind of expected, just because I had dealt with just regular depression. I don't know if you're more likely to get postpartum depression or whatever if you have regular depression, but it definitely hit, and for some reason it didn't even register that that's what it was, even though it should. I mean, I'm the type of I try to be honest with myself, and I try to have conversations with myself. I know that sounds crazy. I may be crazy, but in that fact, I'm not crazy. But I try to be honest with myself and you know, just kind of think about things and why am I doing this? Why is this happening? So the fact that it didn't hit me till months later that it was probably postpartum depression, I just didn't understand why that wasn't a thought. But anyway, that is even the hardest thing that I went through in the past few years. So we had Everly, my second child, in 2018. 2019, 2019, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, my mom had a really bad stroke. She's had multiple strokes in the past, but this stroke in particular left her with more deficits, maybe, if that makes sense. She had a really hard time communicating for a little bit. She could still get around. I mean, it could have been so much worse, but it was just hard to see her try to communicate how scared she was and her not be able to. So that was, I don't know, we'll say November 28th. That's just kind of usually how it falls. I don't know. I can't tell you that's for sure what day it was on. But, and then, December 5th, I don't know how much of this is stuff that I shouldn't tell because I'm a nurse myself. That's another thing. I don't know if I'd ever talked about that on here. I graduated nursing school. But anyway, so we'll just say I was in there with her when I finally got her talked into going in for a PAP. And she goes in. She had always had really irregular periods. It's a lot of lady problems, okay? I'm going to be probably blunt, so if this is stuff that you don't like to hear, it's okay. You can skip out and maybe watch future videos. It's okay. But finally got her talked into going in for a PAP, and when the provider looked, I'm a nurse, so kind of talking graphic is kind of natural, so I'll try my best to not be overly graphic. But when she looked, she seen a mass protruding from her cervix. So she sent us immediately for a CT scan, kind of got it emergently approved. I don't know how that happened so quick. So she got the CT scan, and the next day she followed up with that provider, and the way they explained it to us, she had a basketball size mass. I'm so sorry, I'm not used to this anymore. She had a basketball size mass on her uterus. She had a football size mass on her ovary, and then a softball size mass through her cervix. And that was hard. Not only hearing it, but just thinking of, she had lived, I mean, there's no way she couldn't have been in pain all that time and never said nothing to us. So, the very next day, they sent us to a gynecologist-oncologist. And they did a biopsy there on the mass protruding from her cervix. It's a kind of bigger facility, and I think they were able to tell, I'm sure he was able to tell based off of everything, based off the look of it, probably based off some other things I won't say, but it was malignant, and it was poorly, oh, I can't remember, I can't remember the word. Somebody can probably say it down below if you're a nurse or familiar with that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm really not used to this, especially not on my phone. But anyway, basically the cells were advanced enough that it was pretty bad. We'll just say poorly differentiated, I think is the word. But anyway, things from there moved pretty fast. And I will backtrack to say, before we took her to the oncologist, my mother was in rehab from the stroke. And we had to tell her, because we didn't know what would happen when we took her to the oncologist, because she had kind of been visiting, she being my sister, had kind of been visiting my mom pretty regular, just because it was very close to her house, the rehab. And so if she was to have to stay and not be able to come, it was going to be very obvious that something was going on. She knew she had a doctor's appointment anyway. So that was one of the hardest things, was watching my mother smile and laugh and joke, and then having to tell her some of the most devastating news of her life. Especially when she was going through something anyway. So, my sister was at the hospital, moving back to where I was in the story. She was at the hospital, and it was just crazy how fast everything. They literally started radiation that day, or if I remember right, I could be wrong, but they kept her for probably a week or so. They had to give her blood, if I remember right. Her hemoglobin had dropped to 7. It was 8 the day before. And it had already mets to her lungs at that time. That's something that we found out after they repeated another CT scan at the hospital. And because they did a further up CT scan, the first one was only of like the abdomen and pelvis. So from there, the doctor said that it was going to be a rough 6 months, and that it was. Going between my sister and my mother, my life was a whirlwind. And I ain't trying to make this about me, but just dealing with that, with 2 babies, giving up my time with them, and obviously spending my time with my mother and my sister the best I could, dividing all that time, not only at that time being single income on me. And I'm not saying that derogatory towards my husband, because that's just how it had to be at that time. It was easier for him to stay home and be the caretaker for my kids, because around here there's not a lot of resources. But anyway, it was a lot at one time. And then probably February, my mother got septic from a UTI. And she had a place on her bottom that kept tunneling, like a bowl. But it was bad. It kept tunneling. She eventually, once she got to come home, she had like a drain. Now, this was on her bottom, started out, and the drain was through her inner thigh. So, she was kind of not conscious for a lot of that time. And then, obviously, grieving a loss that hadn't been lost yet, you know? Because when you're a nurse and your family member has this diagnosis, you kind of know how bad it is. And you don't want to show that towards them, because that'll make them lose hope. And obviously, at the time, I was in church and trying to keep hope, because, yeah, I was a nurse, but God can do anything. I know He still can. Just because of everything, it's not like I don't believe. But I wanted to have hope that God could do that. But sometimes He says no. Sometimes it ain't the will, you know. So, sometime early April, my mom got to come home. She's okay, but she wasn't ready to come home. Reason why she got to come home is because my sister's diagnosis had progressed, and they gave her a month. So my mother come home a little early. She still had a catheter and everything. And she got to spend 10 days with my sister before she passed. It's been really hard. Really hard. It's changed my whole life. My parents are older, and I know they won't be around long, and there's a lot of stuff I'll have to deal with after they pass. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Obviously, I still have this time with them, but I know it's inevitable. And I knew a long time ago the things that I will have to deal with after they pass. And I always expected to go through that with my sister. And I only have one sister. And now I'll have to go through that alone. But I'm stronger than I ever thought. Even though I don't feel strong still. It's been really hard. Anyway, I'll keep updating. Because it don't end there. So that happened in April. And I think in August, James's family suffered a tremendous loss in their family. I don't know how much I feel comfortable saying, but He had 3 family members pass away at one time. Very, very, very sudden in a horrible, horrible manner. And then, obviously, we had to deal with that loss. I mean, I had only got to meet him one time. So, but they were very, very close to James, my husband. And then, that following March, so we was so glad to have 2019 behind us, and then 2020 happens to the whole world. I mean, and it's not just a issue with us, but then in March, me and James had went out. We was looking for flooring for our house here, and on our way home that night, we had Harper and Everly in the back, and I hear this weird gurgling noise. Like, I can't even explain it. I can't even remember the noise now. I don't know what it sounded like, but I'm like, James, what was that? Check on him. And when James looked back, Everly had kind of slumped over. We thought she had just fell asleep really quick. And when he lifted her head, she was blue and purple around her mouth. She was still breathing. Like, this isn't a sad story, but it was a very traumatic incident. So I pulled over immediately, and we got her out of the car. I called 911, and they come and got her. Now, the fact that I'm a nurse, that does not mean anything when it's your child. Like, she had the lights on, but nobody home kind of look. She would look, but it would be nothing. And I thank God for whoever it was that stopped and helped us, because otherwise I don't think I would have been able to have the mindset that I had. But like I said, it's not a sad story. It was just very, very traumatic. I think they chalked it up to a febrile seizure, even though at the time she didn't necessarily have a fever. When we got her to the bigger hospital that they took her to, they did diagnose her with like a double ear infection, and she started running a fever there. I don't know if that was from the trauma or the ear infection or what. Just telling you, that's what it was. And then literally the day we left, the hospital had their first positive for COVID. So, and then my mom had another stroke last year. So the previous stroke she had is what's called an ischemic stroke. It's basically, if I remember right, I don't claim to be like the smartest person ever was. If you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. And I'm not around that stuff all the time anymore. So ischemic stroke is basically where there is a lack of blood flow in the brain. Okay. So the stroke that she had last year is what they call a hemorrhagic stroke. And that's where there is a spot where there is bleeding. So when she had the ischemic stroke, they put her on higher dose, more intense blood thinner, to try to prevent any future ones. And then when she had the hemorrhagic stroke, obviously, that kind of put a damper on things because she's on blood thinners. So that made it scary, scary. But anyway, that kind of brings you up to speed. I I don't want to talk a lot about the church stuff, but I mean, you can tell if you know from my past videos, you know, I had long hair and all that. So it is what it is. You can take it for what it is. I still love God. I still love Jesus. They have got me through everything. Do not think that I don't. But just going through some stuff. So, yeah. This video may never ever go on YouTube. I plan for it to. But I just kind of wanted to get everybody up to speed. What's been going on in my life for the past few years. It could be worse. And I'm trying to look at it that way. I could have lost my mom too. And my mind, probably. I probably would have lost my mind. But I just want to get back on here. I don't know. I like to talk. And sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody necessarily. I just want to get some things off my chest. So maybe that'll just be what this is. If that's not something that you would like to continue, you know, subscribing to, I completely understand. I know. But I assure you that I won't be posting content that's not still family friendly. That's not ever my plan. I would never try to post something that everybody wouldn't want to watch. Okay? So, yeah. But if you do not want to continue subscribing, I completely understand. But I hope you're having a good day. And we'll see you when we see you.